It's been about a month since the giant sword of the Final Fantasy set emerged from the proverbial back of Wizards of the Coast and into our open arms. But spoiler season is a runaway train that never stops careening down the tracks, and with so many sets and spoilers coming out all of the time, it can be hard to keep track of what's what and what cards are in any given set. But never fear, because that's why the Jank Center is here to showcase 20 cards you might have missed from the Final Fantasy set. All cards in this list are under $1 as per usual, and with that out of the way, all that's left to say is that this video is brought to you by the EDH Jank Center, your EDH safe space and your source for everything Commander and everything Jank. And I'm your host Jordan. Now let's dive in. And our first card up today is Mughal's Valor. 3 white instant. It says, for each creature you control, create a 1/2 white Mughal creature token with lifelink, then creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. I want to start off this whole shindig by stating for the record that I know next to nothing about Final Fantasy aside from the few shards of information my bestie Crest tells me. So, that being said, Mughals are cute, but also my God, do they do well at protecting our board. And doubling us up on our creature total. All of that plus the tokens we get are lifelinkers? And they have big butts? And it's instant speed? Sign me the actual F up, brother. And while my vocal cords recover from going through puberty a second time, let's move on to card number 2 of the day, which is Eject. 3 in a blue instant. It says, this spell can't be countered. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Draw a card. Now, 4 mana for an instant isn't going to be for everybody out there, but by golly is it appealing to me, because guess what? It does a ton of stuff for that cost. It's a bounce spell that replaces itself with a card, but I think most importantly, it cannot be countered. Dude, sandbagging this until the most opportune moment is what I'm thinking of doing here, since late in the game, when stakes are high, one bounce of a creature can be enough to swing the whole tide of the game in your favor, especially if your opponents can't do anything to stop the cast of this. I love this card, dude, and I will be getting multiple copies for my own personal decks, and I think you should too. And now we've got our patron selection! Woo! And today's card is selected by Adelaide, the Proxy Queen. Addie, thank you so much. She is one of our day ones and a beloved member of our community. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for all your support here at the Jank Center. And Addie has selected a good one today. It is Eden, Seat of the Sanctum. It is a colorless land town. You can tap it to add a colorless, or you can pay 5 and tap to mill 2 cards. Then you may sacrifice this land. When you do, return another target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. I have no idea the relevance of this in terms of the story or setting, but what I do know is that I always forget about lands when I do set reviews and retrospectives. That is until Addie swooped in and saved the day and reminded me that things like this card exist. I love having another awesome utility land to add to the potential rotation as a deck builder. Lands with abilities are an excellent resource to have in any build, as they are less likely to be removed and often fly under the radar as other more present threats make themselves apparent throughout the game. I have won several games with a utility land, and so I am super happy to see another awesome card that can snag us any non-land permanent from our yard out into the world now. Alright, next up we're talking Firion Wild Rose Warrior, 2 and a red legendary creature human rebel warrior. It says, equipped creatures you control have haste, and whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it has this equipment's equip abilities cost 2 less to activate. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next upkeep, and it's a 3/3. Now this card is making the list simply for the fact that it stokes my imagination as a deck builder. I love cards that ignite that creative fire in me, man, and this is doing the trick. It is. Equipped creatures with haste are nice, but I am loving the copy equipment ability in addition to a discount. We can copy anything from swords all the way down to trusty machete if you're freaky like that. I think the design of having those copies not stick around is decently balanced and very aligned with Red's temporariness and go fast vibes. I also think this would be fun to make copies of equipment creatures like Komainu Battle Armor, or you could run this in the 99 of an Ardennes deck to skirt by the equip costs altogether, or you could run this in Obeka to keep the token copies. Endless shenanigans here, kiddos. Enough said. Now let's move on to Sabotender, which is 1 and a red creature plant with reach. It has landfall, which says whenever a land you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent, and it's a 2/1. Simple and straightforward, and also a cactus. I am a huge fan for obvious reasons, and I also really enjoy any incremental damage dealer, and ideally in Magic, you are going to be playing lands almost every single one of your turns, if not multiple per turn, so this has a a very good chance of always being pretty much relevant. And reach is just icing on the cake here, man. Such an underrated keyword in my opinion, but yeah, if you add in some damage multipliers or make copies of this or run this in a deck splashing green and some landfall synergies, you are going to be cooking, brother. I think this is a relevant card to run in the early games of any deck, let alone a landfall build. Also, gotta mention it again, it is a cactus. Maybe? I honestly really don't know. Again, I don't know Final Fantasy, and thusly, it earns its place here on the list. And next up, we have Prompto Argentum, 1 in a red legendary creature, human scout with haste. It also has Selfie Shot. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, if at least 4 mana was spent to cast it, create a treasure token, and it's a 2/2. You know, I can understand when faced with a selfie on a Magic card how some purists might really have an issue, because truly LMAO, but also I am not a purist, and I kind of mess with how campy and wild this is. I also really enjoy a 2/2 with haste that allows us to ramp into larger and larger spells as we continue to cast big stuff, which is clearly the realm where this card leans. But let's be honest and just say that this card made the list because it's a selfie, and you're going to have to be okay with that. All right, here we go. We're moving on to card number 7. It is Galliff's Final Act. 1 in a green instant. It says, until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains. When this creature dies, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on up to 1 target creature. I am always on the lookout for cards that give me new ways to do combat tricks and just generally judo flip opponent's removal into something beneficial for me, and this 4-center does just that, dude. In some cases, the power buff might save a creature from something, but if our opponent is hitting an 8/8 of ours, we can now have it perish, which is sad, but then take its power, which would have been 9 at the time of death after casting this card, and give it to another card of ours. We can turn our almighty Brushwag that was a 1/1 into a 9/9 with trample, amongst other possibilities. For less than 10 cents, dude, I think we get an awesome card here that gets us some insane value when played right. And now we're moving on to Black Waltz number 3. 2 in a red-black legendary creature, wizard with flying and death touch, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Black Waltz number 3 deals 2 damage to each opponent, and it's a 2/2. Very interesting to have a creature named Black Waltz number 3. I feel like that'd be a sorcery or a saga or something, but also once I met a child in real life named One, so who am I to judge? Anyways, I really mess with this card, dude. Just a nasty group slug commander that can get pretty crazy with artifacts especially. I also think an Enchantress deck with this card could also be really fun, or you could go the old-fashioned route and go Voltron with it being a flying death toucher. So many ways to take it. Love the versatility here. Nothing much else to say, so let's move on to Vincent Valentine, 2 black legendary creature assassin. It says, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a number of +1/+1 counters on Vincent Valentine equal to that creature's power. Whenever Vincent Valentine attacks, you may transform it, and it's a 2/2, and it transforms into Galleon Beast, a legendary creature werewolf beast with trample and lifelink, and when a Galleon Beast dies, return it to the battlefield tapped front face up, and it's a 3/2. I have a feeling somewhere deep inside that by the time this video comes out, this will be over $1 since it's pretty good, and I don't know, this guy looks like he'd be popular with people who play Final Fantasy. So anyways, this card is so tasty, dude. This thing can get super jacked out of nowhere, and when it transforms, it has a built-in way to skirt around commander attacks by being able to bring itself right back to the battlefield tapped and flipped over. I love this for a mono black Voltron strategy, dude. Trample and lifelink are just cherries on top here of an already insanely good card. Hoping it stays under $1 in the future and doesn't get too out of reach, but you never know. So now let's move on to card number 10. It's Realms Sketching, which is 2 blue sorcery. It simply says, create a token that's a copy of target artifact, creature, or land. This is a pretty simple tech here, folks. I love to make copies of stuff, and I love that this card does that. And not only does it do copies of creatures, but it can also copy lands, which can come in super clutch at some higher powered tables. Sure, you may not be able to afford a Gaia's Cradle or Cabal Coffers, but you could certainly make a copy with this card and save yourself some money in the process. Hopefully that then can get you ahead in your game and bring home some wins for the budget team. I love the utility here, and that's all I've got to say about that. Alright, next up, let's talk about White Aura Sight. 2 white artifact. When this artifact enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this artifact leaves the battlefield, and you can tap to add 1 white mana. Another pretty simple tech here, kiddos. It's removal and a mana rock. Removal and something else. And it's a permanent, which I love. Short, sweet, and to the utility. I absolutely love to see it. And now we're gonna have a chat about Summon Choco Mog, 2 and a white enchantment creature, Saga Bird Mughal, and it's a 3/3, and it has 4 different chapters, all do the same thing, and that thing is Stampede. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So this set brought with it the creation of the first ever Saga creatures, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't remember that being a thing before this. Anyways, this is just an awesome card for aggro token builds that want to be swinging every turn. A lot of the reasons I have not chosen to attack in games is I know a board full of 1/1s will most assuredly be wiped out by stronger blockers, especially if I don't have the numbers to just kill everyone at the table. However, a boost of power, even if it's just by 1, changes the math of blocking significantly. And usually that kind of effect comes stapled onto an Anthem style enchantment or an instant/sorcery, but we get a creature and 4 straight turns of this buff. So for 3 turns, we are getting an Anthem buff on our creatures for no mana investment, which is bonkers to me, dude. Add on top of that other synergies and buffs, and all of a sudden, this Choco and Mog are the linchpins for our game plan. I know the Magic old heads are probably fuming, but God, it's good. It's good, dude. I'm here for it. And next up on the docket, we've got Stiltskin Mughal Merchant. 1 white mana, legendary creature Mughal. It has lifelink and pay 2 and tap. Target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, you draw a card, and it's a 1/2 BBG. Yet another Mog or Mughal or whatever, but this guy is giving stuff away. I love this. I have an affinity for this kind of build because once upon a time, I had an Ineaz the Galestorm deck that was all about giving bad or ineffectual stuff away and generally being chaotic at the table. But once COVID hit, I had no use for it since that kind of deck doesn't really play nice with Spell Table, and so I ended up giving that deck away on Instagram, and funnily enough, Sam from the Howling Salt Mine ended up winning that giveaway. I wonder what he did with my sweet baby child. Anyways, reverie aside, I think this is such a fun and unique ability for a white commander, and I immediately want to build it. Not much else to say, this guy's a slapper. Let's move on. 2 Raon, Bull of Alamigo. 1 and a red, legendary creature, human warrior. It has ward, pay life equal to Raubon's power, and whenever Raubon attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target attacking creature, and it's a 2/2. I would love someone to make an altar of this, but it's one of the Migos. Niche reference for this audience, but I'm hoping someone out there appreciates that. But listen, here we've got another fun and interesting legendary creature with a very cool and modular ward ability. This means that as we build this thing up with counters or auras or probably equipment, the more life our opponents are going to have to pay to be able to remove it with single target removal. This can be brutal in the late game, man, and I am here for stuff like this. Also, I love anything that remotely resembles my beloved Ardennes Intrepid Archaeologist. Love you, sweetie. Okay, moving on to Judge Magister Gabbranth. White and a black legendary creature, human advisor knight. It has menace or menace if you're freaky. This creature can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, and it has whenever another creature or artifact you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Judge Magister Gabbranth, and it's a 2/2. This right here is a good old-fashioned magic card, baby. It's a nice cost, nice keyword, and an ability that scales over time. This is going to be a great inclusion in a 99 or a great general in its own right. Pretty simple tech here, but I think this handsome fella speaks for himself. Okay, moving on to Excalibur II. 1 colorless mana, legendary artifact equipment. It says, Whenever you gain life, put a charge counter on Excalibur II. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on Excalibur II, and the equip cost is 3. Good God, do I dig this thing. Comes down super early, and if we have some life gain on board, it can immediately start accruing those charge counters. A little bit later, we can equip it to something, not necessary if we run our den, just saying, and then really get to swinging in for some crazy amounts of damage. I love the artwork here as well, just a great card overall. Happy to see it under $1. All right, now next up is Poo Poo UFO. 2 colorless mana, artifact creature, construct alien. It has flying and 2 abilities. You can tap. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, and 3. Until end of turn, this creature's base power becomes equal to the number of towns you control, and it's a 0/4 BBG, of course. I think on some level, both you and I knew I would end up here. I mean, I could talk about this card, but I won't, because you and I both know why it's on the list. Don't fight it. Let's just accept it and move on to Summoner's Grimoire. 3 and a green artifact equipment with job select. It also has equipped creature is a shaman in addition to its other types, and has whenever this creature attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If that card is an enchantment card, it enters tapped and attacking, and it has Abraxas. Equip for 3. And here with this card, we have the debut of a new ability called Job Select. This is basically like Living Weapon or For Mirrodin, in that when something with Job Select enters the battlefield, we make a 1/1 token and attach the equipment straight to it for no equip cost. Pretty cool, and boy oh boy does this thing deliver. We get Elvish Piper, but different here, and I couldn't be happier about it. I love cheating big things into play, and this helps us do exactly that. Super stoked on it, and I really enjoy that there's a fun little synergy if you're doing an enchantment creature thing. All right, number 19 is going to be Kina. I'm gonna go Kina. Kina, Coup Gourmet, 2 and a green legendary creature Coup from the Final Fantasy set. I don't know why I said that. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a 1/1 green frog creature token are created instead, and it has an ability. You can pay 2, sacrifice a frog, put a +1/+1 counter on Kina, and it's a 2/3. Yet another BBG. We're making tokens, but we're also making frog tokens, baby. I love it. We've got yet another awesome legendary creature here, and this time it spews out frog tokens. What is there not to love? This thing generates tokens for us, it can buff itself, and it's a member of the BBG. All that and its general chunkiness earn it a spot on this here list. And our last card of the day is Summon Shiva. 3 blue enchantment creature saga elemental. It says Heavenly Strike. You can tap target creature an opponent controls to put a stun counter on it. If a permanent with a stun counter on it would become untapped, remove 1 from it instead. That happens for 2 chapters, and then the 3rd chapter is Diamond Dust. Draw a card for each tapped creature your opponents control, and it's a 4/5. Gotta round out the list with another BBG, of course. And we are rounding out our list today with another enchantment saga creature. It's kind of removal, but it's also a creature, and then it nets you a ton of cards. I'm super here for it and actually really love it for a build that is going to be on the channel a little bit later. I've said it once and I'll say it again, I love getting more return on my mana investments, and sagas are an awesome way to do just that. And it's even better that it all comes stapled onto a creature this time. Alright, and just like that, we have made it to the end of this week's video, kiddos. What Universes Beyond set should they explore next? What cards are your favorite from Final Fantasy? Did I miss anything? I'm always down there in the comments, so come on down and have a chat with me. And hey, if you'd like to join the EDH Jank Center Discord community, watch these videos a day early, submit cards for the patron selection, and play spell table games with me and other patrons every month, consider signing up for the Patreon in the description below. We've got a beautiful Discord community and affordable entry points, so come on in and get janked. And hey, if you don't have the funds for monetary support, that's totally chill. You can just like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for more Commander stuff and more jank. Alright guys, that's it for me. I'll see you on the next video, and don't forget, the spirit of the format is the gathering.